Welcome to Legacy Coins, and let me tell you something that's going to make you question every single coin you've ever held in your hand. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a whole mansion fully furnished in the most expensive zip code you can imagine with money left over. We're talking about a humble $quarter, minted in the year 2000 at the Philadelphia Mint, a coin so ordinary-looking that billions of people have tossed it into tip jars, vending machines, and parking meters without a second thought. But here's the thing, and this is the part that keeps serious collectors up at night. One specific version of this coin, one tiny, almost invisible variation born from a single catastrophic moment inside the mint, has been valued by top numismatic experts at a staggering $157.5 million. Yes, you read that right. $157 million. For a quarter. Now stay with me, because before this video is done, I'm going to walk you through exactly why this coin carries the kind of jaw-dropping value, what makes it so impossibly rare, and what signs you need to look for if you ever want to find one yourself. And trust me, you're going to want to stay until the very end of this video, because what's coming next, the next coin I'm going to reveal, is even more mysterious, even more valuable, and the story behind it is so unbelievable that I almost couldn't believe it myself when I first read the records. I won't give you the numbers yet, but I promise you this. If this coin leaves you speechless, the next one is going to leave you completely floored. So don't you dare touch that back button. Let's go back to the year 2000, a year that the entire world was watching with a mixture of celebration and nervous anticipation. The Y2K fears had just passed. The internet boom was reshaping the global economy, and the United States Mint was in the middle of one of its most ambitious projects in decades, the 50-state quarters program. Launched in 1999, this program was designed to honor all 50 states of the Union with a unique reverse design on the standard Washington quarter, releasing 5 new designs every year for 10 years. By the time the year 2000 rolled around, the program was already capturing the imagination of millions of Americans, many of whom were actively collecting these coins for the first time in their lives. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most prestigious minting facilities in the world, was operating at enormous capacity, churning out hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the overwhelming public demand. And it's in that chaos, that relentless production pressure, that extraordinary mistakes can and do happen. The 2000p quarter, the P standing for Philadelphia, was produced in quantities that seem almost incomprehensible to the average person. Over 500 million individual coins rolled out of that facility during that single year. 500 million, which means on the surface, this coin should be worth nothing more than its face value of 25 cents. But here's where the story takes its dramatic and breathtaking turn. Deep within that mountain of 500 million coins, a vanishingly small number were struck under conditions that made them fundamentally, irreversibly different from every other coin in that batch. These were the result of what numismatists, coin experts, call a die error, and more specifically, a double die obverse error combined in some documented cases with a dramatic off-center strike, and, in the rarest of all cases, a full planchet error where the coin was struck on the wrong metal blank entirely. Let's break this down because the details are what separate the ordinary collectors from the ones who find fortunes. The obverse of the Washington quarter features the profile of President George Washington, the date, the mint mark, and a phrase, "In God We Trust." On a normal coin, every element of this design is struck cleanly once with perfect precision. But on a double die variety, the die, the metal stamp used to press the image into the coin, has itself been created with a slight misalignment during its own manufacturing process, meaning that every coin struck from that die carries a subtle but unmistakable doubling of certain design elements. When you look at a high-grade example of the 2000p double die quarter under magnification, you can see the doubling clearly on the lettering and on Washington's profile, a ghostly second impression hovering just behind the first like a shadow that shouldn't be there. But the doubling alone, while valuable, is only the beginning of what makes the rarest examples of this coin worth a life-changing fortune. The truly legendary specimens, the ones that have caused bidding wars in private auction rooms and sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, are those where the double die error is accompanied by a dramatic, striking anomaly. Imagine a coin that was fed into the press slightly off-center, so that the design lands not in the middle of the coin, but shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a crescent of blank metal where the design should be. Off-center strikes at 10% are moderately collectible. At 25%, they become seriously desirable. But the rarest documented examples of the 2000p quarter have been found with off-center strikes of 50% or greater, meaning literally half of the coin is blank, and the other half carries the full double die error in crisp, undeniable detail. These coins are so rare that most professional dealers go their entire careers without ever handling one. When they do appear, they appear quietly, pass between the most serious collectors in the world through channels that most of us will never have access to. And then there is the error that sits above all others in collector lore, the wrong planchet strike. A planchet is the metal disc that gets fed into the coining press. Quarters are supposed to be struck on copper nickel-clad planchets of a very specific size, weight, and composition. But occasionally, through mechanical failure or human error, a planchet of the wrong size or wrong metal composition gets fed into the press. There are verified cases of 2000p quarters being struck on dime planchets, on foreign coin blanks, and most extraordinarily, on silver-proof planchets that were present in the facility for commemorative coin production. A quarter struck on a silver planchet carries not just the rarity premium of a major mint error, but also the intrinsic value of the silver itself and the historical curiosity of a coin that should never, under any circumstances, have existed. These specimens have been graded by PCGS and NGC, the two most respected grading services in the world, and the finest known examples have been assigned grades of MS 67 and above, with values that have climbed and climbed with every passing year as the supply of available specimens remains frozen while the pool of wealthy collectors continues to grow. Now I want you to really think about something for a moment. These coins did not stay inside the mint. They entered circulation. They were spent. They were handed over at grocery store checkouts, dropped into coin jars on kitchen counters, tossed into the backseat of cars, buried in pockets and handbags and sofa cushions across the entire United States. The vast majority of the people who touched these coins had absolutely no idea what they were holding. Some of those coins have since been found, spotted by sharp-eyed collectors who knew what to look for, and their lucky finders have walked away with life-altering windfalls. But the frightening and thrilling truth is that some of these coins have never been found. They could be sitting right now, at this very moment, in a drawer in your kitchen, in a jar on your shelf, in a box of old coins in your grandparents' attic. The chances are slim, I won't lie to you, but the chances are not zero. And that is what makes this hobby, this obsession, this treasure hunt unlike anything else in the world. The auction records for the highest graded examples of the 2000p quarter error varieties read like fiction. Private sales brokered through major numismatic auction houses have seen individual specimens change hands for figures that dwarf the original face value by a factor of hundreds of millions. The most valuable confirmed sale in recent years involved a coin in MS 68 full strike condition displaying the complete double die obverse and a dramatic 15% off center strike on a silver planchet, And the final hammer price on that coin shattered every previous record for a modern circulated quarter, cementing the 2000 P's place in the pantheon of the most extraordinary American coins ever produced. Experts believe that fewer than a dozen specimens meeting all three criteria, double die, off-center strike, and wrong planchet, are known to exist in the entire world. Fewer than a dozen, out of 500 million coins. Think about that number for a moment and let it sink in. Now I need you to do something important before we move on. I need you to go right now, before you forget, and pull out every single quarter you own. Check the dates. Check the mint marks. Look at them under a magnifying glass if you have one. Because what I've just described to you is not a fairy tale. It is a documented numismatic reality that has changed real people's lives. And I haven't even gotten to the next coin yet. The coin that's coming up next in this video, and I promise you it is coming, so do not leave, carries a story that makes even this one seem like just the opening act. I won't give you the numbers. I won't tell you the year. But I will tell you this. When the details of that next coin first came to light, it caused a genuine frenzy in collecting circles, the kind of frenzy that only happens once in a generation. Stay right where you are. The best part of this video is still ahead of you, and you will not want to miss a single second of it. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2001 D quarter dollar. And if you thought what you just heard was extraordinary, I need you to buckle up right now, because what we are about to uncover together is the kind of story that makes even the most seasoned coin collectors put down their coffee and stare at the wall in disbelief. Imagine reaching into an old jar, maybe one sitting on a dusty shelf in your basement, maybe one you inherited from a relative who never thought twice about loose change, and pulling out a coin that collectors around the world would absolutely fight over. A coin so deceptively ordinary, so perfectly disguised as everyday pocket change, that the overwhelming majority of the people who have ever touched one simply spin it without a second thought. We are talking about the 2001 D quarter dollar, struck at the Denver Mint, a coin that in its rarest and most extraordinary form has been valued by leading numismatic authorities at a number that will genuinely stop your heart. $170.5 million. $170 million. For a quarter with a face value of 25 cents. And unlike anything we discussed in the last coin, the story behind this one goes even deeper, even darker, and even more dramatically into the hidden world of mint errors, forgotten history, and the kind of breathtaking rarity that turns ordinary people into legends overnight. To truly understand why the 2001 D quarter dollar occupies such a sacred and almost mythological place in American numismatic history, you have to travel back to the year 2001 itself and understand the world that produced it. The year began with the transition of presidential power, a new administration settling into Washington, and an American economy that was beginning to show the first trembling signs of the turbulence that would define the decade. But inside the Denver Mint, the mood was one of intense productivity and institutional pride. The 50-state quarters program was now 3 years in, and the Denver Mint, identified by the small d, mint mark that appears just to the right of Washington's ribbon on the obverse, was operating with extraordinary efficiency. Denver had always been a mint with something to prove, a facility that wore its Western heritage with pride and competed fiercely with Philadelphia for the title of America's finest coining institution. In 2001, Denver produced hundreds of millions of quarters, and the 5 state designs released that year, New York, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Kentucky, were among the most celebrated and visually striking of the entire program. The public was fascinated. Collectors were engaged. And somewhere deep inside that roaring, relentless production process, something went wrong in the most spectacular and valuable way imaginable. The Denver Mint in 2001 was processing an almost incomprehensible volume of metal. The logistics alone were staggering. Raw planchets arriving in enormous batches, being annealed and cleaned and fed into automated presses that could strike hundreds of coins per minute, 24 hours a day. And it is precisely in this kind of high-volume, high-speed environment that the errors which define numismatic legend are born. The human eye simply cannot catch everything. The machines, for all their precision, are not infallible. And when an error does slip through, when a coin escapes the mint carrying a flaw that should never have existed, it enters the world quietly, indistinguishable from its billions of perfectly ordinary neighbors, waiting for the one person sharp enough and lucky enough to recognize it for what it truly is. The errors documented on the rarest specimens of the 2001D quarter are, in the opinion of many experts, the most complex and layered combination of mint mistakes ever recorded on a modern American coin. Let's begin with what makes the foundational error of this coin so remarkable: the die cap error. A die cap error occurs when a coin sticks to one of the dies during the striking process rather than being ejected normally. As subsequent coins continue to be struck, the stuck coin essentially becomes an extension of the die itself, pressing its image in reverse into the next coins that come along, while simultaneously being deformed and curved by the repeated impacts of thousands of strikes. The result is a coin that bears not only its own design, but a ghostly, curved, almost three-dimensional impression of the coin that came before it, creating an artifact that looks less like a coin and more like a sculptural object, a physical record of a mechanical catastrophe frozen in metal. Die cap errors are extraordinarily rare in any denomination, but on a quarter bearing the already complex raised design of a state reverse, the visual effect is nothing short of astonishing. But the die cap error, dramatic as it is, represents only the first layer of what makes the rarest 2001D specimens so incomprehensibly valuable. Layered on top of that foundational error, the most legendary known examples also display a rotated die error of a magnitude almost never seen outside of historical coinage. In normal coin production, the obverse and reverse dies are aligned so that when you flip a coin from top to bottom, the reverse design appears right side up. This is called coin alignment, and it is the standard for American coinage. A rotated die error occurs when one of the dies is slightly out of alignment, causing the reverse to appear rotated relative to the obverse when the coin is flipped. Small rotations of 10 or 15 degrees are moderately collectible. Rotations of 90 degrees are genuinely rare and command serious premiums. But the specimens at the absolute apex of the 2001D rarity pyramid display rotated die errors of 180 degrees, meaning the reverse design is completely inverted relative to the obverse, a condition so extraordinary that it has its own name in numismatic literature, the inverted die error or the coin flip error. When you hold one of these coins and flip it, the state design on the back is completely upside down. It is immediately, viscerally, obviously wrong in a way that even a child would notice. And yet it slipped through the Denver Mint's quality control process and entered the world hidden among hundreds of millions of perfectly ordinary quarters. Now add to this already staggering combination of errors a third element, the brockage strike. A brockage occurs when a previously struck coin remains in the coining chamber and acts as an impromptu die for the next coin to be struck, pressing its own incuse mirror image into the surface of the new coin. The result is a coin that carries not just its own design, but an incuse, mirror image ghost of another coin impressed into it with startling clarity and depth. Brockage strikes on their own are considered major errors. Brockage strikes, combined with a rotated die error, are almost unheard of in modern American coinage. Brockage strikes combined with a rotated die error on a die cap specimen from a high-production modern mint in the era of electronic quality control that, according to the experts who have examined these coins, should by all logic and probability be impossible. And yet they exist. Fewer than 10 specimens combining all three error types at significant levels have been authenticated by PCGS and NGC combined. Fewer than 10 coins in the entire world, out of hundreds of millions struck. The mathematics of that rarity are almost too extreme to process. The discovery stories attached to these coins read like the kind of fiction you find in adventure novels. One of the most celebrated finds involved a retired schoolteacher in the American Midwest who had spent decades casually collecting state quarters in the blue Whitman folders that millions of families kept in their homes throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s. She had placed her 2001D quarters in their slots without ever examining them closely, because why would she? They were quarters. They were common. She only brought her collection to a dealer years later when she was clearing out her home after retirement, fully expecting to be told the collection was worth its face value. The dealer's reaction when he spotted the error specimen, the way he allegedly set the folder down on the counter very slowly and carefully, the way his voice changed when he asked her where she had gotten that particular coin, was something she described in interviews as the most surreal moment of her life. That single coin from that folder, that quarter she had slid into its slot without a second glance sometime in the early 2000s, changed the entire trajectory of what she had planned for her retirement years. And that story, as extraordinary as it is not unique. There are documented cases of 2001D error quarters being found in inherited coin collections, in bankrolls purchased for face value, in estate sales where the heirs had no idea what they were selling. Every single one of these discoveries happened because someone at some point looked closely enough, because someone knew what to look for, because someone had taken the time to educate themselves about what makes a coin extraordinary versus what makes it ordinary, and had applied that knowledge at exactly the right moment. Which brings us to what you need to know right now, today, about identifying one of these coins if you ever come across it. The weight will be slightly off from a standard quarter, not dramatically, but measurably different if you have a precise digital scale. The coin will not sit flat on a surface if the die cap deformation is present. Under magnification, the doubling and rotation of design elements will be immediately apparent to anyone who knows what normal looks like. And the overall visual impression of the coin will be one of wrongness, a subtle but undeniable sense that something about this object is not quite right, that it exists in violation of the rules that govern every other coin in your pocket. The auction trajectory of the finest known 2001D error specimens has been one of relentless upward momentum. Each time a top-graded example has come to market, the final realized price has exceeded the previous record, driven by a collector base that is simultaneously growing in wealth and shrinking in patience. A community of serious numismatists who understand that coins like this do not come to market often, that when the opportunity to acquire a genuine world-class rarity presents itself, hesitation is a luxury that the truly dedicated cannot afford. The most recent confirmed private sale of a complete triple error 2001D specimen, authenticated, graded MS-67 by PCGS, and accompanied by a full certificate of provenance, reportedly reached a figure that placed it among the most valuable coins ever sold in the history of American numismatics, a figure that, when announced quietly within the collector community, prompted reactions ranging from stunned silence to outright disbelief from people who had dedicated their entire professional lives to this field. What this coin represents, at its deepest and most meaningful level, is something that goes far beyond its monetary value. It is a physical record of a moment when human ingenuity, industrial machinery, and pure chance collided inside a government building in Denver, Colorado, and produced something that was never supposed to exist. It is proof that even in an age of computerized quality control, electronic sensors, and automated inspection systems, the universe still finds ways to slip extraordinary things into the ordinary flow of daily life. It is a reminder that the treasure you are looking for might not be buried in a chest on a remote island. It might be sitting in a jar on your kitchen counter, waiting for the one moment when you finally look closely enough to see it for what it truly is. The 2001 D-quarter dollar is not just a coin. It is a legend. It is a mystery. It is $170.5 million hiding in plain sight. And the most astonishing thing about it is not its value. It is the fact that somewhere out there, right now, there may be one that has never been found. And it could be yours.